Hello. Oh, there is. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you to those here in the room, and thank you to those joining us on live stream. We are here at the lab, our wonderful partner and friend here in San Francisco, also known as Yalamu to the Ramaytush Ohlone people. I'm grateful to our four presenters and Noah Ross here at SPT for being so collaborative in imagining how this evening would unfold. We invite you to move around in this space throughout the program, interact with the altar here in the center of the room, leave a note or message there if you would like, and feel free to stretch and move around. And I do apologize that we did request 2 ASL interpreters for tonight and promoted the event as such, but unfortunately, due to a family emergency, they can't attend, so my sincerest apologies about that. Just for a moment, I want to say I've been working at Small Press Traffic for almost 5 years, and I've long wanted to do a program for kari, and there are times when you don't always get what you want in this job. It doesn't always come to fruition, and so I feel, as my tenure here is coming to a close, it feels very meaningful for me to have been able to make this happen and to share this moment with you all. So thank you again for coming. We will begin with a few remarks from Fran Blau, kari's partner, and then we'll have two presenters and an open floor conversation where we invite all to participate, and we'll conclude with 2 presenters and then have another open floor conversation. Between those 2, there will be a short break, but don't go too far for too long, because right after the short break, there is a visual slideshow of kari, her artwork, and her books and writing, accompanied by a track by kari called Last Week in April. And by the way, all of the music playing tonight at the start and at the end of the program is all kari. Thank you to Rob Halpern for making that available to us. We have intentionally dedicated 2 open floor periods for everyone to share thoughts, reflections, or memories about kari. I know some of you in the room were very close friends of hers, and others may be encountering her work for the first time. I'm honored to be able to host all of you in the same room, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you if you feel moved to share in these moments. As you surely have seen, we have many books for sale, selected works by kari, thanks to her publishers for providing them, and some printed materials. An essay by Fran, originally appearing in No Gender, published by Litmus Press and edited by Tracy Grinnell, Julian Brolaski, and Erica Kaufman, along with 2 broadsides, one by Erica Kaufman and one by Trace Peterson. We've been in conversation with many individuals leading up to this event, including Trace, who has done so much to publish and promote kari's writing. We've also been in conversation with Fran, who I'm very grateful to for talking with me and for sending us images that we've used in the slideshow and for also contributing many pieces at the altar. And I also want to note that we reached out to individuals far and wide and received many thoughtful messages from people from kari's communities in Colorado, folks in New York, and elsewhere who also shared images and messages that we've included in the altar and who may be joining us on the live stream right now. So thank you to all. It has been very clear to me through the interactions that I've been able to have that kari was a real force and a powerful influence on people everywhere she went. I want to thank the Poetics Program at the University of Buffalo for providing archival images and for co-presenting this program. I look forward to sharing this time with you. Please join me in welcoming Fran Blau.
Oh boy. I thought I'd be able to see you better. So, as Sid was talking, I was just once again struck by, her multifaceted life. I'm going to read a little bit from my essay in No Gender. I'm not a writer, but I did write this. It's really about her writing, but as you will see tonight, she did many more things. So, Carrie and I lived together for more than 10 years. Until her unexpected death in 2006, she was my life partner, lover, critic, and cheerleader. The catalyst for her public writing career was the death of Allen Ginsberg in 1997. We were on meditation retreat as part of our contemplative psychology degree requirements when we got the news. She was particularly affected by his death, as she had harbored a secret desire to study with him at Naropa. Part of her reticence in pursuing that dream was her severe dyslexia that had only been recognized when she had a writing assessment as part of entering the Naropa Institute. She spent many years being labeled as problematic in school because her academic performance did not match her IQ. This diagnosis catalyzed her, and she started researching and reaching out to other students with dyslexia. Along with a faculty member, she facilitated a support and educational group for dyslexic students. Ginsberg's death, however, seemed to give her courage to begin writing seriously. The rest of the retreat, she used the time intended for individual meditation as an opportunity to write. From this experience, she produced a small book called The Mandala of a Dharma Queen. As part of an independent study she set up with Reed By in the Writing and Poetics department. She then began to segue into the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics at Naropa while finishing her psychology degree. We graduated together from contemplative psychology in 1998. In 1999, she had gender reassignment surgery in Montreal, and in 2000, she graduated from the writing program, becoming an official heir to the Beat lineage. So when I spoke with Sid about this evening, I was asked to bring some items for the altar, and I told Sid that most everything I had was at the archives in Buffalo. So what I did bring was some of my own art that is intimately connected with her. There's a large piece, it's sort of underneath everything right now, that is a collage of her photographs of India that I made. And then the other piece, the framed piece, is a picture from when we scattered her ashes at Ocean Beach. It's overlaid with some of her handwriting that she did while exactly a year before her death on her birthday. She died on her birthday, but the year before, when we were in India, she did a pilgrimage. She walked from where we were staying in Oroville to the ashram of Sri Aurobindo and the mother in Pondicherry, which is 10 kilometers. And while she was walking, she wrote on the back of a little map that she had so that she could get there. And that's the handwriting that's on the piece. There's also a printout of it there as well, if you want to look at it more closely. So I'm telling you this because it seems very fitting, because what we're doing here tonight is really celebrating her continued and lasting influence on those who knew her and those who have found her work. After Carrie died, I vividly remember how much I wanted time to stop. It seemed, or rather I felt, that every minute, every second that transpired was taking me farther away from her. And what sustained me and helped me through that time was the continued interest in her work. Bharat Jiva, one of her books, came out posthumously, as well as Having Been Blue for Charity. And though both of those manuscripts were finished before she died. I also received many requests for poems for publication. And over the years, this has slowed down somewhat, but continues with people doing work in her archives at Buffalo. It's very gratifying to see how her life and her work continue to impact the writers and the artists who knew her, and even those who have never met her. So, thank you.
Thank you, Fran. It's an honor to be here celebrating Kari. I want to thank Sid for pulling all of this together so beautifully, and also Bianca and Nomi and Rob and Noah for collaborating on conceiving how this would be as a community endeavor. I was going to read from my introduction that I wrote with Erica Kaufman to No Gender, but I decided to speak from my heart instead, or speak from my notes, which are from my heart. I met Kari in the early aughts. Cynthia Sailors and I invited her to read in the New Brutalism reading series. And then we became friends, and she and Fran invited me into their salon, where we would sit and talk about poetry and books, and people like Tanya Hollis and Eleni Stakopoulos, Rob, others were there. Kari was the only trans poet I knew, and that's how much things have changed. Not only was she the only trans poet I knew in the Bay, she was my only trans friend, my first trans friend. Again, I know it sounds hopelessly dated to say, and I wasn't out at that time. I'm sure she clocked me. What Kari was doing was really wild and really radical and generous, really, for us, what she was doing with language, breaking open the binary. And she kind of showed me this by example, that breaking open of the binary is not, it doesn't start with personhood or political activism. It happens on the level of language and of grammar. And she kind of showed me, she was the first person I really knew that was using a pronoun other than the two ones that had seemed to be available. They wasn't really much of a thing at that time. And she was sometimes using see and hear, SIE. And so at that time, I too was coming into a sense of my transness and this understanding that there could be two or three or four or more. And simultaneously, I was coming into an understanding of my Apache heritage and the kind of indigeneity that existed before colonial times, and that there was an availability for more types of gender within that heritage. And in Apache, there is only one pronoun, be, for everyone, he, she, she, they, it. There was this concept also, inde, itsan, man, woman. This was a solace, transness. There was a word for it, a place to feel into, room in the language to exist. And if I'm making it sound like Kari shepherded me into an understanding of and an availability to my own transness, well, that's deliberate. And we're still here, friends. People are still being beaten and killed for using a bathroom. The things Kari was fighting about and raging about on her blog, Transdata. And I'm thinking about our fallen Choctaw sibling here, and I don't want to say their name because I don't want to call them back to this world or belabor their journey to the next world. But it feels good to be with you all, with our, I'm tempted to say, transcestor. 6 months before Kari died, I changed my name and moved to New York. I don't want to exaggerate my intimacy with Kari. At the same time, it's impossible to overstate her importance to who I am as a trans poet. And I wrote these poems in mourning and also in admiration for Kari. The first one is called I Seen the Apocalypse, However, etc. The whole of the six or the camera hath attended of mine, whatever's own frivolous we, tries to place things in certain terms for etcetera's therapist, whose thought a miracle, whose embrace of agony, not uncertain, etc., fell by the way, where no thing stood for the noun itself, this seemingly genteel ceremony of replacement. Sie did it herself, sie did it themself, they did it theirself. Your presence, absence, absence, presence is. Proliferation of pronouns, whose yin tide reverseth several, etcetera's own. To anyone who makes experiment, the tide drifteth aback. Water become bone, for etc. had been talking this whole time. A general proliferation of pronouns will replace you all. Even B-lists, celebrities flaunt venomous tude. In fact, more venomous. Nothing is worse than ambivalence. Kari, who hath undone. The person partook of their tea. We are etcetera's art, and we walk around, not theories. A person sees a hot person and becomes hungry. Kari, I seen the apocalypse, however, etc. may mandate. The train went out without a horn, and the sigh of whales. All have not been able. All have not even been able. That's what all, etc. suspected, began to suspect, what they was in for, whose manifest aspect ne'er I ne'er desired, who in touched me through their mouth, oh manifest, etc., compliment who were able to look o'er one's own, their heart, Kari, where the thing stands for the thing, whose manifest aspect, dear regardless, who regardless had left and gird their several breast, bubble works, memorabilia, feeling out their mind, trousers in Bangkok, flight, nor more how to do impress upon their citizens, maladroit mode, oh, but etc. will avenge, whose countenance rhymes R was ultimately adept as to how a puppy impermanently, who strayed nonetheless upon everybody's authoritas allure, whose saketini embroils them in throes, who more miserable, alas, allures, oh ha, evidence of moral conception. And this one is elegy for Kari Edwards, and it has an epigraph from Kari. I am your sugar plum fairy commodore in chief. And from Catullus's poem for Lesbia, Conturbabimus illa. Like, let us confuse them or confound them. Dame sirs of fishers, princes reginae, I don't need this botheration. Gilded toe and engendered pension, embedded narcissism, skirts can or could not be worn with, intentional disgrace, getting off, I sleep where I sit, Gog and Magog, ope, myopia, sweetness and delight do it for Sydney, as star lover did rue on star, their mistress cloying the lack with their poesis toying. 'Twill never hurt, Regina, prince, alack, a reft, locks beset, candle a grove, a buck in a corridor. As like with likeness grace the tongue, and sweets with sweets cloy them among. Conturbabimus illa, let us confound them. Beasts implored, in character impaled, Agatha's breasts in a 14th century pincher anon, 7 heads with 7 comings on, horns on their horns, wings at their feet and at their wings. Well, you have 3 seconds to live. Bespeckled apprentice, freckled daylily, a penny uneasily pleated myrtle. Iron boot blackening at the speed we levitate con. There is no mistress I am among. Limbed elms colluding with doves, nor tide nor tail. Angels with svelte angles, the rub and tub goyles, languid as Jersey, too early for supper, etc. was their pimp and whatever their sucker, shit slinger, master cleanser, with corporate coffee and torture pate. My present page in livery, old glut of a beast's spleen, the glory over. Lordling socked a jaw, Nassau a blog by Fairly, a sweet mate, a swoopster, bedeviled in gullet, swashbuckled by proxy. Homosexuality, eh? Red River Andalus, funny, albeit Friday, all the door crock, gender suggests we levitate avec. Held captive, patron, bothermonger. Ah, Myrtle, why sea is taken, my mind, impertinent parasol, glossy with promise of salt, can't leave their cell phone alone, iPod Eterna, satellite viscera, muscadeted papillon, that one, strident, 17 stallions with horns on their heads and horns coming out of the horns, a papillon, that one, a buck in a corridor, conter bobimus illa, let us confound them. All ridded of giggling, anthropomorphia aghast, DL in the Boweries, the tee-hee ambigenuity of amputee wannabes, Googling tee-hee, silly faggot, dicks are for chicks. Dicks are for chicks. Wicked he, to bury my heart at. My heart was in my knee.
Mic check, deck check. My name is Noa Micaela Fields, or you can call me Nomi, if you know me. This performance is called A Day in the Life of E, mishearing Carrie Edwards' poet's novel, A Day in the Life of P. I don't know what P stands for, but E is for estrogen. Ritually, I found a copy of the book, which is long out of print, the week that I started hormones. Though I never met Carrie, I consider here, I'll use Julian's word, a transistor. Her inventively crypt queer poetics, mother's my own, so I'm honored that SVT invited me to share in this tribute. I'd like to offer a few poems in homage, glitchy homophonic translations, echoing fragments from this book, retracing by mishearing, lovingly carried away with Carrie Edwards, our miscarried femme-glitch portal, invaginated mythopoetic dream space, inverted potentiality of loose, lubricated, mad languaging, mouth off, mupping, tremolo, pills, pills, pills. Spell that backwards. Or turn inside out, slip, slid, spillage, tuning fork when out of spoons, dysphoria of mouth and ear across the page, orgasmic call and response anagrams, so wet, left on read. She's dyslexic, and I'm hard of hearing. Our not so fluent conversation, two transversals crossing, crossed out lines. It's a game of telephone, except it's not a game. And I need to call her back. Call back to her. Can you hear me? One, E-story. In the 11th hour, may we double dip our sexes and jaywalk on the wild side. Booting reboot. Etch a sketch, second epidermis. Try on the remainder. Wash off the snot or snow or sob story sonograms for naturalisms, all changeable. A blistering circus courting ritual for those itching to escape the maw of dissociation by co-parenting prettier realities. Cyclical metaphors savoring entropic plans. Is this the next step? Unrepentable meandering? Where's the start over button? Whispered hockets, selves dying or born at the pyre tonight. Start E. New familiarity, finding me, somehow undone. Inscribed she recklessly. Smuggle in womanhood, composed next door, kitties the next step, coeval with future form. 2, preferences. Know me not, miscreant, expansive service top for the deaf, connected issue, bend over instructions in the age of communist dentata, thousand aches, fever dream, hometown rage, think relapse to duet again, against, another do, another go, undo that vocabulary, ovaries, confessional factory, orphan Martian, self-addressed viva breasts, I'm recentering the margins, for once, intervene, create something. Ad-lib chain reaction. Now that hyperbole is indecorous, bottoms up at the whisper-free party for the hearing-impaired ravers of the world. All or nothing excuses for embellishing situationships, tribbing, overriding excess tribulations for future preferences. Let's assume speech reinvents itself belatedly. This one requires a little context. It's called Can You Hear Me? And it is about the Deaf Club, which was a punk venue in the Mission in the 70s. Why was it called the Deaf Club, I wondered. And I found out that it was actually owned by deaf people. It was a former deaf social clubhouse, and they were the only venue in town that didn't mind the noise, hosting the loud shows. The epigraph to this poem is a headline from the San Francisco Chronicle: Deaf Club closed due to excessive noise levels. Anhedonic. They tore down the Deaf Club where rose San Francisco punks crashing here, 16th and Valencia. Ignorant of the music's historical significance, almost wounded, wondering if streets can hear their own decline, soul-search archived nuisance reports. Yet some hear the captionless concerts and all-night renunciations, profane dance-off front left against electric guitars, count us in. Then cue dreams of appendix for when we disappear from the map in later years. What was once a deaf clubhouse, the center for passing through punk bands, 18 months of commotion and hair fads, greeting deaf patrons, cruising sublime for them, newness of rocking out, noiseless energy washed through incorrigible vibrations, peak loud outfits, everybody's unsuitable fashions, wondrous wormhole, intrinsically warm-blooded events, adventurous conjugations. Someone sings, "Be less lonely." Something would stir, transfer co-created rhythms for the deaf, beat loss allowing, enchanting, uncontained motion, ambient traffic, on and off stage thrashing mutants, overdose papillae, game of telephone. At last call, though, nebulous scene, thrown out, commonly rated. In sting operation, screams lost on the floor, we would sign, "So long," then speed down the roads that muttered us without hearing nor speech. "See you soon," "So long," sign along. And my last poem is actually going to require some participation. I know that's an audience's least favorite words, but you don't have to do it out loud. It's called "Why Not Be All You Can Be," which is a line from Carrie Edwards. And there is a scroll over here that is a massive game of telephone I played by myself. And I hope that you can join in the ritual of responding to it as well at any point this evening. I hope that the potentiality of her words might allow for a joyful or radical expansiveness that is deeply needed in this moment of trans grief and crip grief and so many other humankind griefs right now. Why not be all you can be? Why not be kaleidoscopic? Why not be an alter ego? Why not be enjambment queen? Why not be an anti-American princess? Why not be a chameleon? Why not be better known? Why not be a little more androgynous? Why not be anyone's guess? Why not be all lowercase? Why not LGBT alphabet soup? Why not be all the above? Why not be in bed all day? Why not bed hopping at night? Why not misbehave around the clock? Why not believe in love after love? Why not be all in? Why not be all consuming? Why not beat a world record? Why not boast 1,000 tall tales? Why not be honest with me? Why not learn how to apologize? Why not believe in karma? Why not get carried away? Why not be a helium balloon? Why not belong somewhere else? Why not break off mid-sentence? Why not be ineffable? Why not onomatopoeia? Why not be an all-you-can-eat buffet? Why not be a breakfast burrito? Why not be a pile of candy? Why not be arm candy? Why not be uncanny? Why not begin to can? Why not become choreography? Why not twinkle, then twirl? Why not be incandescent? Why not brighter and brighter? Why not bedazzle wherever you go? Why not be allegorical? Why not author your own destiny? Why not be a trans lawyer in Kansas? Why not a poet's novel? Why not make it alliterative and alarming? Why not be asking for trouble? Why not blasphemy? Why not make our own traditions? Why not decide by consensus? Why not all hands on deck? Why not unionize? Why not control, alt, delete? Why not beget the fall of empire? Why not behind a revolution? Why not bemoan apathy? Why not be history? Why not from the river to the sea? Why not be uncontainable? Why not be radically free? Why not dream a bigger we? Why not beyond all you can see? Why not be unbelievable?
So we have about 5 minutes for opening the floor. If anyone wants to respond to the presentations, share any thoughts, memories, visit the altar. It's not a formal break, but we're just having a moment. Yes. Oh, there were two. So, Megan and then Roxy, was that good? Do you want mics?
I was one or maybe the only, but one of the literary curators. I was a curator
Is that one on?
for New Lengthen Arts, and I was judging the New Lengthen Arts Bay Area Award, and that was how I first read Carrie's work. I got The Life of P, which just totally blew me away. I thought it was... Can people hear me?
No.
No? Okay.
Like.
Give me a click.
Oh, maybe. Should everyone just stand? Do you feel comfortable doing that? We can keep doing that. Okay.
If we can't get that on.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, yeah, great. So I was a curator at New Lengthen Arts, and I was the one that gave Carrie the Bay Area Award for Life of P. And so I read Life of P. I think I was one of the first people in the community to really read Carrie's work, and it just totally blew me away. It was so completely present and innovative and excavating the territory of experience and theory in the same sentence and the same gesture. And it was just extremely exciting and totally developed work. And it was a writer that I'd never heard of. And it was kind of for me, Carrie's entrance into the community was a joy. I just want to commemorate that moment. So are we saying personal things at this point?
Yeah.
What everyone's saying? Okay. That was beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. I met her around the same time. I think 2001. I met you guys at Naropa, and then you moved to San Francisco. And so we were all kind of newbies in San Francisco. We hung out a lot and went to vegan restaurants. And Carrie was writing A Day in the Life of P, and I just felt immersed both in her language and in the process. So she shared with me that she would wake up at 5 in the morning, take a bath, and stack up 5 books of different genres, almost always philosophy and poetry next to her, and get sort of stained or absorbed, by Kristeva or whoever, and then kind of have her little choric pulses of language that would come out of the mix. It was mostly I just want to say friendship. It was just very deep friendship, and until I became a labor activist and moved into the East Bay and missed some of the things that were going on later, but came back. I don't know. I did this. I published her in a transgenre anthology. Part of Iduna had a new narrative panel at UCSC where I think, Rob, you met her there. It's just, there's a lot of collaborations, but mostly friendship. And I wanted to just share something I was reading from Having Been Blue for Charity this morning, the first poem, Hanging from the Sky, which I don't know, Fran, if this is, you'll have to say what the timing was, but she wrote, I wonder what it would be like to say you have 5 months to live. And it was, published like a little after she died. Would you want an hour in the trenches with clenched iron fist idioms, or what? The next page, you might be thinking of draining something right now, but let me tell you, there is no time. I am being bullied by a hidden force. Yeah. Anyway, I just, hanging from the sky, you guys were living close to Judah, and it felt like you were in the space hanging close to the sky at the edge of the continent. I can't wait to see that picture where we were all felt like hanging by the water and the sky. But thank you for bringing us all together so much. It's so beautiful and painful and beautiful. Anyone else? And my heart goes out to the Colorado people that can't be with us, but that are with us.
Thank you. We're going to have another opportunity for talking too. So I think we're going to, well, we could take a short break now, or we could watch the slideshow first and then take a break. How are people feeling? Are you anxious to get out of your seats, or are you cozy enough for the 8-minute art and music? I feel like I'm feeling that right now. I'm getting thumbs up. Kevin, do you think you can cue that up, and we'll take a little break after and then come back for Rob Halpern and Bianca Messinger, and then another little round for talking? Thank you again to Julian and Nomi and Noa. That was really wonderful. I'm now filling space until Kevin cues up, but I don't really need to do that, so I'm going to walk away.
breakfast, one glass after breakfast, one glass just before mid-morning snack, one glass before lunch, one glass after lunch, one glass just before dinner snack, one glass before dinner, one glass before dinner, one glass before dessert, one glass before redness, one glass of the daily multiple vitamins before breakfast, one glass after breakfast, one glass just before mid-morning snack, one glass after lunch, one glass after lunch, one glass before mid-morning snack, one glass after dinner, one glass after dinner, one glass after dinner, one glass after dinner, one glass after your dessert, one glass before bedtime, one glass of the daily multiple vitamins supplement before breakfast, one glass after breakfast, one glass just before morning snack, one glass before lunch, one glass after lunch, one glass of the morning snack, one glass before dinner, one glass after dinner, one glass after your dessert, one glass before bedtime, 3 willing to independence with the equal chair, 2 of them 3 willing lilies after Densei first salt, saying the and water off regard for card words because with his actions and I'm staring with one hand as a guy which is that polished to give that ground and into house and the dead and the evidence of God. Amen.
Lovely Lindu walked away from the area. After 11 more months putting up with Debbie's wild lifestyle. Because she was fed up this drunken night Playboy had. She just couldn't cope with the immature man she carried. But their love never died. When Linda filed for divorce, Desi fell apart. He withdrew from his last fast-slave friend and hid in his own cocoon. He tried the dating circuit, but more women he met, the more he wanted Lynn back. That's when Desi turned to his father. At the same time, he went to Desi's letter for advice. And Desi's eager parents got them back together. they'll tie the knot again. And this time, I know the marriage will last.
Hey everybody, we're gonna get started again in like 1 to 2 minutes. So that's the 1 to 2 minute warning. Okay, we're pretty much at that time now. Can everybody, we're gonna get started again. And again, thank you all again, and we are going to carry on with Rob Halpern and Bianca Messinger, and then after the two of them, we'll have another moment to share some thoughts, and then people will be free to hang out in the space for a little bit as we break down and clean up. So thank you all again. And Rob.
After Kari. No excuse for what appears explains spending hours on gas carriers, poems, being dumb, share no reason, no answer, for what's occurred keeps calling us here when seeming not to be ourselves. Recalling the violence, your signs go on, appearing immediate, lost, and the grave, exorbitant survives and gives and keeps on giving. This undoing, proper kinship, frames of fantasy, an obscure gift, we enter truth, being the emptiness, queerness, names, our sad selves, ruins, rubble. Fire feeds this lack of product, the only work to reason, not the need to negate the world. Meaning's pure excesses, localizing sounds, engendering riots in sense, not sensing communion, scandalizing death in words with no future. We seek portals, holes and faults, hew new relations quicken, chasing that persistent and ongoing no. I wrote that poem in the weeks following Kari's death, and it became the last poem in my book, Disaster Suites. Thanks, Sid and Noah, for inviting me to participate, and to the whole community that Kari's spirit continues to nourish. I'm struck just listening to the word generosity that's come up several times, and I just want to underscore it extemporaneously, just that Kari's generosity in person and work was enormous, a prayer and a gift. So tonight's event moved me to return to a pretty amazing archive of audio recordings and original music compositions that Kari left us, like the pieces we've heard all evening and the one we just heard accompanying the slideshow called Last Week in April. I've always been pretty hooked on Kari's music, its maximalist minimalism, anomalous sampling, and weird distortion, its sonic layering and recursive textures, all qualities we could just as easily associate with Kari's writing. I want to listen just to a very short fragment from a piece called I Can't Help It, with its digital cutting and looping of Sylvia Plath's haunting voice reading The Thin People. And the lines from Plath that Kari samples and overlays are the gray people on a movie screen. They are unreal, we say. It was only in a movie. It was only in a war making evil headlines.
People on a movie screen. They are unreal, we say. They are unreal, we say. They are unreal, we
say. And then there is Blammo, Kari's punk performance act circa 1982, for which Kari reads headlines and stories from the National Enquirer through a vocoder or a voice filter, all thrown against a curtain of synthesized drones. And here's an excerpt from that.
God, thank you, I cried.
Nobel Sperm Bank.
Draw any person. No bad. No lessons. No talent. You can draw any person. No bad. In 1 minute. No lessons. No talent. You can draw any person in 1 minute. No lessons. No talent.
So, while it would be pretty easy to chalk it up to art school theatrics, Blammo is just too good and too prescient and too weird and too rich to just dispatch. Blammo recalls for me how in the early days of my friendship with Carrie, she introduced me to Robert Ashley's operas and Ursula Mayer's primer on conceptual art, both of which are sort of helping me to think more about Carrie's music and the access it provides to Carrie's whole sense of aesthetic value and technique more generally. I've been thinking a little bit about that Blammo performance next to Transdata, the blog that Carrie kept consistently from October 2003 until her death in December 2006. A conceptual project in its own right, Transdata is a catalog of any and all headlines and buried news items from the global press having to do with LGBTQ+ issues and activism, set beside the then daily accumulation of reports of dead soldiers in Iraq. All of this is interleaved and hyperlinked with other blogs and news from the poetry world. The entirety of Carrie's Transdata remains extant online, and it's really worth reading from beginning to end. But I've collaged a few bits and pieces from it somewhat randomly here, drawn from the fall of 2003 and the winter of 2004. Remembering Our Dead, November 20th, 2003, because 37 trans folks have been murdered this year. Gwen Aroro, Newark, California, strangled. A transgender woman from Arvada who said she was fired after she announced her plans to have sex change surgery has reached a settlement. Homosexuality has gained some acceptance, but not in rural China. 2 Khond women from Orissa, Koraput district, have defied all norms to live as man and wife. 1 soldier killed, 2 wounded in IED attack 11/7/2003. 6 die after helicopter incident near Tikrit 11/7/2003. I'm not quoting anyone, but there are voices. My skin is clear, I can see the sky. Darling, you are so naughty, purrs an elegant, sari-clad woman glowing out of primetime TV. Co-belligerents in the many-fronted war against patriarchal power. Don't miss the rapid, revolving, rancorous riot act of writing going on at asis.blogspot.com. Because 37 trans folks have been murdered this year. Unidentified transvestite, Kuala Lumpur, Indonesia, beaten to death. It seems easy for some to use words without knowing the historical context or the difference, such as transvestite or transsexual. And the bigger question is, why is it even important to label someone? I recently asked some folks, what correlation do you see between correct spelling and gender? Here are some of the responses. 1 soldier killed, 2 wounded in IED attack, 11/12/2003. Spelling is a dysfunction. Check it out, the new Brutalism reading series presents Carrie Edwards and Chris Nealon, Sunday, November 16th. Getting caught up with the dead. 6 die after helicopter incident near Tikrit, 11/7/2003. New books, number 2, Deerhead Nation by K. Salem Mohammed, Tougher Disguises, 2003. This is a funny, and an edge that would catch me. Best of all, I got to hear K. Salem Mohammed perform some of this work, and it was scary. 1 soldier killed in mortar attack, 11/28/2003. How to Watch a Tyrant Squirm, Emma Goldman from Anarchism and Other Essays, 1910. House reading with Mary Berger and Magdalena Zarowski. Location, Stephanie's house. Goals for the day: 1, colon cleaner; 2, paraphrasing type A; 3, use transition between lines; 4, small g God sex and larger facsimiles; 5, gushing; 6, inaudible response. I was reminded by Brian Kim Steffens at Free Space Comics about the Factory School Digital Audio Archive. Check it out. This is not even half the list of live recordings at the Factory School Digital Audio Archive. 1 soldier killed, 6 wounded in vehicle rollover, 12/17/2003. This is the beginning that will never end. This is the door that never existed. 2 soldiers killed, 4 wounded in mortar attack, 12/26/2003. Check out Julia Serrano's website for the Bay Area's flourishing transgender performance scene. Throw out your pronouns. He and she are meaningless terms. 9 soldiers are killed when the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter they were in crashed at approximately 12:20 p.m. January 8th, south of Fallujah. 10 years ago, a handsome, brown-haired 21-year-old named Brandon Tina was raped and later murdered by 2 men after they discovered he wasn't born a man. Please check out this wonderful list of home readings in the San Francisco Bay Area. And this from Lo. Wiping my face of sleep, of dreams, of the plains and byways, or maybe a bad 1 in a million searching for another 1 in a million story, colorized to fit the environment, not wanting to open my eyes, not wanting to tune into any particular station, just wanting to let the bandwidth skip loose and pick the remnants from the wind-up, whipped streets, crowned on half-plumed walls of glass. Who said what, maybe, where, or when? I know it wasn't the funeral of someone or the depot for holiday food distribution. What were they saying? The Great One? From where? And what does it mean, born to the daylight red, and caused the weather to weather? I needed to know. I needed to have control of every second, plan every escape, find routes not known. So that was all from the blog. So from blammo to blog, from the tawdry pages of the National Enquirer to the catalog of violence against trans folks and the death toll in the Iraq War, these bookends of Kari's life and work, when thought about strangely as complements, throw into exquisite relief that constant quality of Kari's work, where the laughable debris of capitalist culture is set beside its penetrating brutality. It reminds me of something Trace Peterson refers to as the persistence of the salad bar and the kreplach buffets in A Day in the Life of P, when they're set beside the spiritual aspirations and deflations of Bharat Jiva. I suppose one might call this bathos. Kari's work is often characterized by these sudden shifts from the profound to the ridiculous, shifts one might associate with bathos, but I'm not sure that trope gets us very far, because those shifts in register may not be shifts at all. What I mean is, I'm not sure there's a hierarchy of value in Kari's work, whereby something can be said to sink from high to low. In other words, Kari's work is non-dualistic, a real poetics of emptiness in the Buddhist sense, as opposites are only ever opposed in appearance, just like its contradictions, be it the cheap hotel and the ashram, the salad bar and the sacred meal, the pop song and the prayer, Bowie and the Dalai Lama, disaster and nirvana, commodity and artwork. Moving from blammo to blog, I'm closer than ever to understanding something Leslie Scalapino wrote about Kari's Iduna. And this is Leslie. The text's paradise can only be achieved by imperfection, total as continual disruption, or rather a perfect disorder as simultaneity of changes all present visible at once, not either static or resolved, yet somehow held in disorder. And with this in mind, I'd like to end by listening to Kari reading from Obedience in 2005, I believe.
Let's go back. Let's start again. Do it over. Proclaim the obvious, return to the other ring at the end of the ellipse. taken as a ringing as the ring begins, starting its stop, pointing to a pre-hum limit, writing it into being, a presence of presence, once malleable, prickly pear, okay karma for a week, leaving us nothing but a palpable electric reminder. I keep listening for what they think, but I cannot enter their lurid regime, leaving me out and without, saying, writing, saying, this other hand named and pointed to, showing the invisible, knowing the unnamed, opening unto multiples, how here is there and there is here, sometimes in moments, sometimes in groups, taking place in a place that is a moment with no privilege, just constant sun, a continuous hum, a kernel of noise, a name change of a name change that keeps changing, nothing in the insipid, nothing an oblong conjunction, wandering exposed to a continuous possible, multiple ends out of reach, halfway through a dream, then it's morning. I cannot talk to you, so I live for you. The lottery hawkers and thieves take your body, derailed in a sentence, distorted in a sentence, self-conscious in a circle, a body just below the surface, touching nothing, body just below the surface, cradled in dirt, at the center of the earth, both complete and on repeat, the hand that touches language, that writes the orbital on the belly, on the mouth, circling to touch, to the limits of touch, to the vision of touch, to the touch of touch, in the hands around your life, with a wish to know your face, that is the hand reaching for the skin, touching in smooth, brilliant, sliding motion, a serpent, a fish, a text, writing a text, writing you. You are touching nothing. You are dead, written on the skin, in the touch, in the generations on our back. This is ridiculous. This is the sun blazing. There's a kind of war as a suburb, a body as rather an unrecognized presence, a violent exhaustion of discourse, a picture of ourselves as a grudge against the living, a monster reducing all to inscription, something crazy for something crazy, something for the living, something for your laughter, something to not be trembling in this disaster.
I get vertigo, and this event is also giving me vertigo. I can't wait for a Blammo record. I think this could happen. It needs to happen. Yeah, something. Yeah. Can you pull up the? Okay, got it. So first of all, I'd like to thank Sid, obviously, for inviting me, and also thank you to Allison Frazier and Jim Maynard, everyone at the Poetry Collection at the University of Buffalo for putting up with me asking for things. Thanks to Fran, and also to Dodie Bellamy for giving me permission to share the work that I'm about to share. Carrie writes, this is my own strange pronunciation of her name. Carrie writes of her own work as emanating from that space where the binary, especially gender, disappears into a faded historical miasma. What is left is a pulsating search for the photosemantic field, where the there of there and the it-ness of it are never quite adequate. So the search is in endless cycles of it not quite this. For if gender is an indescribable feature, or in describing gender we objectify and cast all into dualistic hell of righteousness and domination with its endless battleground, then not describing it frees us from the bounds of language. If that is so, then what happens to the rest of the world's itness and theirness when it becomes a dyslexic playground for the failure of language? Next slide. So looking through Kari's papers is also a vertigo-inducing experience. This metaphor will make more sense later. First, in the sheer extent of her printed output, and especially when you consider her writing as something she did in addition to working full-time as a mental health counselor for the trans community, as a word therapist and a therapist in word. So there really isn't a point where the work stops and her life begins. They're both part of the mesh of her life. If we look at other writers with a similar output, Robert Duncan had a trust fund, for example. I originally thought my presentation would focus entirely on what exactly she was doing in the Joan of Arc notebooks, in that refashioning or failure of the self and its refashioning through others. And that reading is still there if you want it. But I found myself reading around the margins of the notebooks. You can go to the next page. Oh, sorry, back. Yeah. Each cover scrawled with phone numbers, people to call, new numbers, Buffalo numbers, New York numbers, medications. There is not the quiet distraction of the poet, distance from the world, but instead of a world being made from the undoing of the systems of violence of the world, and the reality of knowing it is up to us to do the undoing. Her phonetic, dyslexic reading of French does this, in her reading of Jeanne d'Arc's Dormi la pucelle, Dorm la pucelle, beyond language. The phonetic French for Jeanne d'Arc's birthplace is also do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, or the start of it all. French, like any empire's language, is a language in desperate need of being undone. Next slide. Thanks. I'm French-Canadian, so I can say that, but also it doesn't matter. Kari's notes also contain her directions, making maps of Buffalo to get from point A to point B. But as Kari reminds us, there is no option A since there was never an option B. In a sense, maps drawn from memory seem like an accurate way to read her work. Kari's first drafts, like those of other famous dyslexics, such as Samuel R. Delany, are dense. Delany calls his virtually unreadable, which is to say, I don't think Kari would have wanted them to be published, as the work is still mostly unpublished. There are around 12 notebooks in total, which is to say, there's enough Jeanne d'Arc for a book the size of Duncan's HD book. I don't know why I keep going back to Duncan. But it is also a collection so rooted in Kari's being, the collection of notebooks, of the kind of writing that one does as their life work, the kind that makes analysis of it useless as analysis already is. But reading isn't useless. A possible quote from the notebooks could be, I proceed down a widening set of humanity, a path of safe harbor. I proceed down a widening set of humanity, a path of safe harbor, expand this momentary Xanadu, a point where all four dimensions become apparent at leading me to a great entry point, grand doors open to a position nexus as each step is a step closer to honesty of purpose. Her eye is so many eyes at once. Next slide. Looking through her notebooks reminds me at times of the writer and scholar Eli Clare's writing process, of a start and stop and go again, push and pull, of grappling with the text instead of the maniacal, eugenical focus on cure. I liken Kari's notebooks to Clare's depiction of restoring a tall grass prairie or rebuilding a dynamic system that has been destroyed by the near extinction of bison, the presence of cattle, and generations of agribusiness, farming, and fire suppression. The goal isn't to recreate a static landscape somehow frozen in time, but rather to foster dynamic interdependencies ranging from clods of dirt to towering thunderheads. tiny microbes to herds of bison. The writing is a dynamic ecosystem of thought, not simply places and times and numbers. I think of Kari's words forming in these drafts as clods of dirt do, creating something like a literary topsoil. But I needed to look at the poets in her life who were helping her make those clods. Okay, next slide. Next slide. What is difficult to describe in the archive is how to make relationships appear, but this is also one of Kari's life works. How to represent a 300-page folder of printed emails to Ellen Redbird, who she writes after 9/11. Ellen, I'm fine. Last week was hard. Seemed to put a new spin on things. I think, as the media has said, we are in a new phase. Revenge, nationalism, and that good old-fashioned warring spirit that has, for the most part, put people on the highway to stupidity. Other than that, fine. Just wish I could find... This is right after 9/11. Other than that, I wish I could find a country to move to that wasn't so bound up in hate. Her emails to Ellen are a place where Kari revised and honed her work, and their relationship developed into a kind of editorial friendship and then an official editorialship, something which also leads to Kari's increased literary output during this time as well. The need for a sounding board, prairie fire. Next slide. Next slide. See, she likes working with relationships. It has definitions of all the relationship words in it. Next slide. There we go. In an introduction to a 2003 reading Kari gave at Cal Arts with Gail Scott, hosted by SPT and the Poetry Center, Kevin Killian asked the audience if anyone remembers what the Bay Area was like before Kari. He says, all I can think of is a blurred out crossword puzzle with all the clues erased. Kevin first met Kari in Boulder, a day so hot, he says, he determined never to come back. And then again, he says, at Niagara Falls, probably for the 2001 symposium that Poetics hosted called Prozac Buffalo, with Dodie, Kevin, Eileen Miles, Dennis Cooper, to name a few. Most of all, Kevin understood Kari's humor, which is something that is difficult to translate in the written word and or underrepresented in quote-unquote experimental writing. All the pieces I've written are meant to be funny, she says in a personal interview for Naropa in 2001. Kevin and her also shared a bond of being poets with large hearts. Later, after emails about a well-attended going-away party in the Bay, Kari writes to Kevin about Auroville, the utopian township in Tamil Nadu, India, where she volunteered, held a writing workshop, in addition to serving as a crisis counselor. She never stops working. Next slide, please. Oh, no, sorry. Not yet. She writes to Kevin, thank you for the nice note. I could hear your voice coming through loud and clear, though I think America needs an enema more than me. Back to enemas, yeah. They're very effective. But what institutionalized anything could do. The turnabout is complex. In 7 months here, I've met some of the most kind and considerate people, and I've met bigots, aggressive, crazy, ignorant fanatics. Basically, I've done my deep connective tissue observations and have found unexamined post-colonial blindness, righteousness, arrogant folks, some scary folks. I don't know, and I know what you're saying. Oh, that sounds like America, with a K. Well, that is what I have come to see. No matter where you are, there you are. But what is not there are folks like you and the rest of the poetry community, who I miss terribly. Anyways, see you in Og, ready to poeting again. Full force. Love, Kari. Poeting full force for Kari was to make trans space, to make space where there previously was none. to make a kind of prairie where linkages can exist between selves, between genders, and between worlds. As none of Carrie's works have real endings, as she says, I'd like to end with an excerpt from a panel on gender she gave at Naropa, also in 2001, to carry her voice and her work into the world. Thank you all so very much for your time.
To me, this discussion is already limited by language. It is also defined for me by my own fluctuating sense of gender and externally reinforced identity that all hinges on this thin layer of flesh. The exterior labels include faggot, queer, sir, queen, transvestite, madam, ms, stupid bitch, which while inside the labels are actions and not stable positions, or if stable, then only for a moment to meet the gaze of another or take a political stand. The unique position I hold is that of a gender voyeur, disidentifying with the system, but still very much a part of the system, which gives me a unique vision of the world, inaccessible to the insider. We live in a gender-segregated society where we are given only a choice between two of somethings. That is a choice that is not a choice at all, but rather the opportunity to subscribe to a value system that is reinforced within the courts, the tribunals, the body of laws, its tortures, its executions, and its police. Last year, more than 13 individuals were murdered for not meeting society's gender requirements, and it didn't make the paper. Language has become max speak, simple classifications for everything, so you're a number two with a side order of fries. This classification where one never names but one classes someone else is bound up with force and violence, serving the connection between different genders and sexuality, severing the connections between different genders and sexualities, placing one in a set of relationships structured through sanctions and taboos, including the sameness taboo that is ever present in the gender-centric society, especially when the difference between men and women starts to blur. We continue to believe in the myth of men and women we continue to believe in the myth that men and women have always existed and will always exist, and that the categories of male and female are based on anatomical criteria, which is neither universal nor valid concepts. Are you then amazed that the history books have excluded or newly discovered as parentheticals to human development the Hijuras of India, who existed outside the gender binary, the First Nations Two-Spirit people, the castrated Galis who date back to the Stone Age, the gender transformations in Ovid's Metamorphoses, Pope Joan, the Sapphist and Mollies, who were considered a third and fourth gender, or the drag queens of Stonewall? Wherever there are two genders, a third cannot be far behind, and where there's a third, then there can be a fourth and a fifth. We want to think a gender is solid and that there is an absolute segregation between genders, but then that would deny the existence of those who are intersexed and the numerous types of chromosome configurations. If we continue to insist on this segregation by personal pronouns, we will continue to perpetrate a reliance on the slave-master relationship. We might say one is born a woman or a man, but becomes one. One then could say, if one chose, one could choose to become neither female or male, woman or man. If human beings have constructed and used gender, human beings can deconstruct and stop using gender. The most obvious way would be to deliberately and self-consciously not use gender. What I'm suggesting is that we call into question the structures in which we recognize each other as humans. We are living in a historical discursive moment in which our language has run out. Maybe it's beyond our words that we don't know how to talk about it. We need to recognize that there's no longer a stable binary where men have vaginas and women have penises. when we can no longer, where we can surgically alter, strap on theme and variation genitalia beyond most people's imagination, and where sexual encounters are no longer held tightly in categories of gay, lesbian, straight, bisexual, transgender, but become multiple locations of desire. Gender then can become an action that requires a new vocabulary. If each person has their own individual perception of time and space, which is based on relationships to objects, then could this not also be said of a person's relationship to gender and sexuality? If we continue to speak of ourselves and conceive of ourselves as men and women, we deny each other and every person the individual relationship to space, time, and gender. We need to imagine another body capable of living beyond the incompleteness of what we designate as real, alive in its own name, in its own words, where everyone exists as an individual as well as a member of a community. Thanks.
The mic is right here. And then you just have your hands. This one's actually wide. You know what?
Cool, can you hear me? Sweet. I never met Carrie. I'm actually here because at EMU, Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti, I read a Carrie poem in every single class I was in, whether it was Carla's class or Lynette's class or Rob's class. I've read Iduna so many times. And frankly, one of the things I think a lot about is, to me, sitting here, thinking about what poetry is to me, and hearing everyone talk about the way Carrie accessed poetry, even though I'm writing really boring paper poems right now. It's like that ethos is there, and the reason I write poetry is because I think about my friend Al, who's not here with us right now, and how much KP and all the conversations we've had about, one, gender as an action, and then two, her work, Carrie's work all the time. So I just wanted to say thank you, Rob, for sharing Carrie with me and with us and with Ipsy, because to me, she is a part of Ipsy, even though she's not here. So just wanted to say that.
Okay, well, I will thank you all again. I will invite you, if you'd like to leave a message, there's some paper and pens, and you can visit the altar again, or contribute to the scroll that Noa left. And have a very nice evening. Thank you all for being here.
It's still there. Sure, the Wayback Machine also yeah, it's like this, it's like in like catalog stuff that's like been on the web. Yeah, it's like a weird archive. So dancery. It's like stuff, right? As far as I know. Yeah, a lot are women in it. I do kind of miss the blog era. I mean, I was even post-blog era. I feel like I used to read like Nana Gordon's blog, like I'm Stephanie's blog, like there's all this more attention span. Yeah. But people would type so much, get in these long arguments in the comments. Yeah. Yeah. Well, people so rarely argue in long form anymore about poetry.